fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing another new player's guide, but this is also one that really applies to everybody, specifically because of the new solo Armada mechanic that has dropped in the game, where if you go into your galaxy side, you go all the way up into this top, wait, right up here, you've got solo Armadas everywhere. So now you've got, you're a player that you can take 3 ships, level 35 plus players, obviously, with the new Bajoran faction, 3 ships, 1 person, smack them down. Now, this means that we have to really go back and kind of like refocus on how do we stack officers and what do we talk about when we talk about those bonuses below decks. And I want to show you an example. So let's take, for example, my Auger, my very fancy Auger. It's a beautiful Auger. It's tier 8, and I've thought about taking it to tier 9, but it's a beautiful Auger. Comment if you like my Auger. So I'm running Riker, Beverly, Khan. Now, let me just go ahead and say that the ships I'm running on don't really matter. The power doesn't matter. What matters is the strategy that we'll talk about in this video. And if you're a newer player, pay attention. If you're an older player, you still want to listen because strategy figures. To hit the assign officers button, what you're going to see on that far right side is 300, 300, 300. Now, I do want to point out that based on the tier of your ship, for example, or I'm sorry, the star rating of the ship, well, that could be very different. For example, you see these ships, the Tala maxes out at 240%. So you've got scaling there where you get like a 5-star ship and it's like 500%. But what we want to talk about is what do you focus on first and why? And we've talked about this a little bit before, but I think it's even more important now. And the short answer is the far right, there's one that says health. This is the one you want to max out. Now, the honest answer is you want all 3 of them at 300% because all of them end up doing something specifically. So like if you back out real quick, go to your details screen, you'll see attack. Well, that actually boosts your actual damage provided by 300%. Think of it like the research that you have. You have those researches and exocomps and weapon skins and ship skins. All those are just boosting your attack. Well, this does the exact same thing. So the quicker you can get all of these to max, the better, but that does require you to have a higher tier ship. If you've got, say, for example, my Valdor, well, or let's use my ISS Jelly. My ISS Jelly struggles sometimes to get those max percentages because I can only put so many officers below decks due to tier size. So you want to keep that in mind as you're building. Now, the focus has got to be basically on every ship, health. Health, 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 for a couple of reasons why. Number one, not as many things in the game affect hull health. Now, there are more coming in. For example, there's a new Bajoran favor that increases hull health. Tendi, a below deck officer, increases hull health. That is there. But what this directly translates to, and you can see it here in the details screen, directly translates to more hull health. Now, it does technically translate to more shield health, but we're not as worried about shields as we are hull. The more hull health you have, the longer you will survive. Whether you're fighting a hostile, an armada, doesn't matter. The more hull health you have, the better you're going to do. So, like the video if you like hull health. So that's what you want to focus on first. Now, optimally, if you're doing a solo armada, you want all of your ships to hit all 3. But if you had to pick, well, you're going to pick health first for all 3 of them. And here's why. You have a ton of officers in this game that are damage boosting officers, especially against armadas. For example, look at Riker. Riker increases weapons damage against armada targets by 120% every round. Well, that's just one. You've also got Theseus down here. He kind of actually boosts damage by every shot. You've got Ash Tyler when burning is active. You've got critical builds with Khan. You've got the brand new set that just came out. Let's take a little bit of a gander over there. You got this brand new set with Miles and Cisco with critical chances and also giving you mitigation. So you've got a lot of things in this game that can actually boost your damage. Mariner below decks can boost your damage. What you don't have though is a ton of things that actually improve your health significantly in game as an officer. And what I mean by that is if we go to our officer menu, what you're going to find is generally things that do like Scotty, for example. 16% ship's hull health. Like in today's world, that's beyond useless. Like it is just a really bad officer. It has no real application except for some stat stacking or using it in an away teams. if you really wanted to. There's no value. There's the point that I'm making. So as you're going through this, you want to make sure that that is the thing that you max out first as a new player or any player. When we're focusing on these armadas, focusing on anything, you want to get whole health done first. Next would be attack, because attack directly translates to more damage created. Now, many of you go, well, why not defense? Well, defense has to do with how mitigation gets calculated. And the truth is, we have so many mitigation officers in the game, and that's a good thing. Cisco, an amazing mitigation officer for Armadas. Beverly, amazing mitigation officer. Moreau, while only useful for PvE, amazing. DJ Aoki, Zal, 5 of 11. We've got a lot of mitigation officers in the game. Officers that can boost your mitigation to that max level, which is what we always talk about. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, here, let me bring you up a battle log real quick. Federation Patrol. That's what I'm out there grinding right now with my Valdor. Hit the battle log button. You might even want to bust out your handy dandy calculator, everybody, but take a look at this shot. Not only is the damage really low, but 6,562 divided by 9,217. What's that going to equal? I'll tell you, because I'm going to put in my calculator real quick. Actually, I already know what it is, but I'm putting in my calculator just make sure. 71.19. Oh, yay! Max mitigation. So defense as a fill-in underneath doesn't mean it's not important. Just that how it actually affects things in games. One, it's not even listed correctly in the menu. But when it comes to mitigation and piercing, there are things that we can actually do to make that better. If you actually read the utility of that one, it's right here for defense. Provides a bonus to armor and stuff like that. It's ignore. Now, you do have a lot of officers that require defense as a stat stack. Now, this is where we get to the next level. But the main answer to the premise of this video, new players, old players, stack health first, then attack. But if you can, you want to get everything to the maximum percentage. Now, I do want to point something out because I get asked this all the time, especially in YouTube comments, but I'll use this opportunity to shout the Twitch channel. Join it if you haven't already, links in the description. There is no secret bonus beyond this. Like, if you stacked 80,000 attack, you're not going beyond the 300%. The only time that starts to matter is when we're stat stacking something specific. Speaking of, how about Beverly? Beverly, when fighting hostiles and armadas, increases the armor, shield deflection, dodge by 250%. Obviously, that's level based. Of the defense of all officers on the ship. There are a lot of very important officers that build off a defensive stat build, and that is going to determine how much mitigation you get from her ability. So that is when stacking defense actually starts to matter. Now, there is a math of how that actually is calculated, because we got all these different resources for officers. We've got to use the base numbers. I probably should end up doing a video kind of discussing that, but that's not, this is more of a new guide, new player's guide. So y'all don't worry about that as much. Just hit these max, hit the 300%, and then start worrying about crews that you stat stacks beneath. Now, if you're in a brand new, like brand spanking new ship, and you've got nothing below decks, anything that you can focus on top, the main things you want to focus on top, any type of mitigation officer and damage boosting officer. Now, this one, I just switched just to show here. This was I've been running my Enterprise as a support ship. So it's had Giorgio to help out that auger. It's got Kirk to keep the shields up. And then I've run 5 mostly for the loot bonus, but I could swap that around. Once I get 6 of 11 to tier 3, I'm actually going to start running 6 of 11 and probably not worrying as much about my shields staying on forever as much as I am going like full support class. But we'll see. I'm going to be changing some crews around just a little bit. But the premise of this video to really talk about for all players, that if you're curious, how do we go about this with Armadas? Because solo Armadas being the big focus for a long time, I actually really, truly do like this mechanic. Stack health first, then attack. Want to get all 3 of them maxed out, but you only worry about stat stacking after you've moved into the process, where you're now focusing on officers that use a specific stat. Now, I know there's so many officers in the game, and you go, well, it's hard to keep up with them. It's hard to know what officers are mitigation. And, you know, maybe we should make dedicated videos. And if you think that's a good idea, by the way, I want to know your opinion. Would you like to have a current list of, hey, these are the top 5 attack officers in the game. These are the top 5 mitigation officers, and these are the top 5 critical build officers. Would y'all like that video? And if so, comment down below and let me know. Exciting stuff coming in the next week or so. maybe a little bit longer to get to the next arc, but maybe it's worth it. Just have to stay tuned to find out. Live long and prosperous. Stay safe for the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next exciting video of Star Trek Fleet Command. Howdy.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.